Hey everyone, this is Bobo the Vulture. This is Let's Play Gran Turismo 2. I'll admit it, I'm scared. I'm scared of failure here. I'm scared of not being able to hack it. I'm scared of having nothing or next to nothing to show for what will turn out to be a very long span of work. 12 seconds, so that's as much as a pit stop cost us. As good as, because, I mean, let's face it, he was right on my ass. Ten seconds behind now, but I have to imagine he's now stopping for his supplies. Boy, I was just talking about how it's all going to be about this all-important outlap, and I'm just messing it up big time. I need to make hay while I've got good tires, because everybody knows the best hay comes from good tires. I'm not mixing metaphors at all. I don't know what you're talking about. You at home who are speaking to your televisions. How are your televisions doing, by the way? You should ask them. Mine is like, I'm okay, I'm a little hot, but I always generate a lot of heat because I'm a plasma screen. That's why nobody uses plasma screens anymore. Not because they generate a lot of heat, but of course they consume a lot of energy, which ends up getting radiated out in certain occasions as heat. My. You know, it was around this time that I stopped playing the new driving sims as everyone came out. And the common convention now, and this is something I'm sure I've said before in this Let's Play, as I'm sure I've said just about everything already before in this Let's Play, because it's gone on a while. But the convention at this time was to have the gas and brake be buttons on the button pad. So you would hit them, you would strike them with your right thumb, and that would be the thing that would happen, and everything would be good. The convention has since moved on to being you hit the accelerator with your right index finger on an analog trigger, whether that be the RT or R2, depending on your controller system preferences, so on. And your brake would be the left trigger, left button L2, whatever you want to call Come on. This is supposed to be where I mix up some of my best ground because of the just fierce acceleration of this ridiculously turbocharged engine. Oh yeah, so that was something that I was saying in the last hour-long video that I got split off on, the mythology of the Jaguar XJ220. So it was originally supposed to come out in like 1990, and they were like, alright, we'll finish development in 2 years, and then we'll bring it out. It'll have a V12 engine, all-wheel drive. It'll be the most amazing thing ever. And I'm like, well, it won't be all-wheel drive. Okay, wait a second. Well, we probably won't have it. Excuse me, by the way, I think I just belched. I apologize. That's a shocking and vulgar act of rudeness. Yeah, we won't have it out for 1990. And they're like, well, wait a second. It's not going to have a V12 engine anymore. It's going to have a V6. And even though some of the world's most amazing engines are of the 6-cylinder variety, V6 just doesn't have the same sexy ring to it as V12. I mean, honestly, Ford has a conundrum these days with, you know, sort of the beloved pony car icon, the Mustang. It's always supposed to be the coolest Mustang, has a V8 engine in it, but it's hard to make good fuel mileage out of a big V8 engine that has a lot of power. They could do pretty good things at this point. I mean, they call it EcoBoost, but really they're just turbocharged engines. They have, I mean, they're putting them in pickup trucks now instead of V8s. Like, just try the EcoBoost V6 instead. You'll be surprised by the fuel economy. It will be great, and you'll love it. But there's a sort of a macho image thing about having a V8 in your Mustang. I mean, it's the same thing with the Camaro. Even though the engine in a base V6 Camaro now puts out more horsepower than a V8 Mustang, or a V8 Mustang of like the 90s or even the early 2000s did. You get V8s in Mustangs that were not above the 300 horsepower threshold, which is roughly where the V6 is in today's Camaro is. I don't remember the exact figures, and I don't remember the exact figures for the V6 Mustang. I'm at the V6 Mustang somewhere probably in that range now too. They stay fairly neck and neck, those particular vehicles. They stay pretty close in terms of specs. One will be a little better than the other here or there. But it won't be the kind of thing that your average person will really be able to tangibly figure out. It's more that then bragging points for people that have the sticker of a bootleg sticker of Calvin urinating on one or the other nameplate will be like, oh yeah, well, my Camaro got more horsepower than your Mustang. Oh yeah, well, my Mustang do a quarter mile and faster time than your Camaro. I don't know why both of these guys are from a region of the South in which they do not speak fantastic English. That happens sometimes. And then a third guy shows up and he's like, well, I ain't gonna take my Challenger better than both of them things. They can do this. And everybody's just sort of like, ha 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 ha. I actually think Challenger's a pretty cool car, but again, you know. In terms of performance benchmarks, apparently, it's in the same league, but not leading those other two. It's a bigger car, though. It's, in theory, it's a little bit more comfortable, easy to get around in. Although I actually tried on, last time I was at an auto show, I tried having a seat in each of those, respectively. Actually, I did in the Camaro. I'd sat in somebody else's Camaro more recently than that. And found I did not fit. I mean, I fit, but found I did not fit comfortably. I like to be comfortable when I'm driving. What can I say? It's one of the things I like. I actually, and it's weird to say, but a friend of mine has a Mazda 2, and I really like it. If the seat traveled back like maybe 2-3 more inches, I'd be in love with the thing. It's a wonderful little machine. As it is, I don't want to drive it for more than short trips. I will, and it won't kill me. But it wouldn't be my preference to go on a road trip in it, say, where I was going to have to do driving. Actually went on the road trip, and we ended up taking my car because, well, it also has cruise control, whereas that particular Mazda 2 does not. I believe you can get it in them, but yeah, either way. And as it turned out, I have a Civic, which is heavier and has a bigger engine, yet ends up making roughly the same highway mileage as that Mazda 2. For two reasons. One, it's probably more aerodynamically efficient. It's slippery coupe shape sort of thing versus a fairly space-conscious hatchback design for 5 doors. Also, if you specify the automatic in both of them, which was specified in both of them, the Mazda 2 has a 4-speed automatic. Or it did at the time. I mean, they may have put a 5-speed in them since. I have a 5-speed automatic. And having the extra gear, as you've noticed, when we toy around with gearing here, it really helps to have extra gears, because you can be in the right portion of the car's power band, or you can shift down to a lower gear and say, if you, in Gran Turismo terms, it's so that you can be in the car's power band more often. In sort of real-world driving terms, it's more that you can have an extra gear where at highway speeds you can chug along at fairly low RPM if you've got enough gears to accelerate you there, and then have an extra gear on there, just be like, whoop, 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 whoop. This takes no effort. Well, speaking of no effort, I don't want to say that this has become no effort, because the moment I do that, I will fail. But I am, even as we start to get toward the twilight of this stint, I'll be coming in 6 laps. So we're well into the second half, anyway. Bit of a respectable margin over my opponent. I should stop saying things like that, because the moment I do, I start getting overconfident and accelerating too hard or braking too late, doing all of these things that you've probably noticed that I'm doing. That actually went pretty well. Usually slow down too much or too little in a lot of these corners. That didn't go as bad. Alright. So, yes. Um, so after the XJ220 kept on having... I mean, the car that was eventually delivered was apparently a spectacular car and everything. It just wasn't exactly the car in terms of power plant, drivetrain, all this other stuff that they were anticipating. But by the time they delivered it, it was less than those specs. And, people forget it now, but in the early 90s, there was a gap between the sort of go-go stocks and bonds craziness of the Reagan 80s and the tech bubble, tech boom of the Clinton 90s. I guess also known as the George H.W. Bush administration. Not necessarily his fault. There are economic forces stronger than any one president at work in all of these sorts of things. Just like, yes, we had fantastic growth under Clinton. It wasn't necessarily policies that he had. Some of it also just had to do with the fact that there was a giant tech boom going on. Either way, though, in the early 90s, we were in a recession. And people that had been super wealthy 80s guys were all of a sudden, like, less inclined to just sort of spend crazy funny money on an exotic supercar, especially when it didn't have the V12 that they were promised and all this other stuff. So there was something like 1,400 deposits put down, and in the end, less than 300 were made. I think like 275 or something like that. Of course, they were all built by Tom Walkinshaw, by a shop set up by Tom Walkinshaw, because and most of the R&D was also done by Tom Walkinshaw. It had the Jaguar name on it, but a lot of, after the original prototyping and everything else was worked out, a lot of the end development and stuff was done by Walkinshaw and outside groups. So, yes. Because, I guess Jaguar had its own R&D projects going on. The main products that they had at the time were the XJ6 and the XJS, which had both existed for many years. Downright old designs, honestly, by the time you got to the 90s. But, had major revisions and things coming through, so they were working on getting those set up. I guess this was in the waning days of Jaguar as an independent force, at least a British-owned independent force, as I believe it was not long after this that Ford Motor Company took a controlling interest for a while. It eventually got spun off, Jaguar did. And Jaguar was eventually sold to... Yeah, and I think it was... Ford had a restructuring, not one that was government required the way that things were at GM, or, you know, part of a dissolving bankruptcy thing, whatever, like happened at Chrysler. But They ended up spinning off of many of the members of the Premier Automotive Group, which is part of what Jaguar was. Aston Martin was another part. Volvo, too. Volvo, also part of the Premier Automotive Group. And when all that happened, Jaguar ended up getting picked up by Tata. Maybe I'm missing a step somewhere along the way here. But Tata, an Indian firm. Indian firm that makes cars, I think, among other things. That's one of those things. There are many... seems like it's not as uncommon a thing for corporations, especially ones in Asia. For it to be one company that just makes a whole bunch of seemingly unrelated things. Like, you know, Mitsubishi, they make cars, they make televisions, they made airplanes. They have massive real estate holdings in Japan. Pretty sure that they make cola there. It's all over the map. It's kind of crazy. Well, it's the 45th lap, so it's time to come in. Don't even play, man. I know you're coming in, too. Don't even act like you're not. See you coming in for pit work. Stopping in the stall behind me. Have fun back there, sucker. Alright, and once again, if we can manage to continue to build on our gap a little bit during these early laps with good tires, and then just maintain as we go along, that would be great. I would dig that. Oh man, if I had done that kind of an entry just one lap ago, I'd be spun around, probably pointing the wrong direction on the corkscrew, and could have been passed. Alright, so I just have to remember, next pit will be on lap 75, and, oh no, sorry, oops, my bad, lap 60. We will want to pit on lap 60. Oh, highway hypnosis. Lost where I was in the track. Ah! Man, gotta keep focused. It's a little bit late here. Not so late that I couldn't do perfectly fine playing Fallout 3, but it doesn't require the same kind of constant focus. Which is interesting, you're thinking, like, but you're running around with a gun. And there are people out there that want to kill you in the capital wasteland. Yeah, well, you know, they get off shot, and then you notice that they're there and be like, oh, hang on a second, let me go into VATS. Or, be like, oh, Charon, go get him. Oh man, if I had Charon as my co-driver right now, I have no idea whether he's a good driver. But he could take a stint for me. If he could just keep the car in position, I could hand it over in the lead and be like, hey man, just keep it on the brown or the gray stuff here. Don't let it go off track. He could be like, and I shall follow your instructions. And be like, good. And then life would just be fine. Alright, let's do a dab on the brakes up this way. Keep it climbing, keep it climbing. Slow it down. Alright. And there we go. Begin to get the feeling either, I don't know if I'm getting a better understanding of what this car likes in terms of how to be driven, or I'm just going crazy, or what? Or maybe it's just that I'm still fooled by the good tires into thinking that I'm driving it decently. But I feel like I'm getting a better idea of, yeah, the car likes all of its inputs to be done sequentially. You don't want to get wrapped up doing more than one thing at once. It's like, hey, steer a little, then brake a little, steer a little, then accelerate a little, then brake a little, then steer a little, then accelerate. Don't do them all at the same time. Like that. Don't be sliding. As a matter of fact, get your braking done early. Accelerate. You know, like, don't be accelerating all the way on the outside of the turn. Alright, that bit of wisdom didn't make any sense even to me. I apologize, it may be sleepy. Alright, 10 more laps at this. And life is going okay. Let's climb up this hill. Let's scale this mountain. Yeah. I apologize. I don't have any penetrating insights. You'd think I'd have some considering we've been away for so long. I'm like, hey, I've observed some new things about the world of racing. I kinda haven't. I still get to watch the occasional IndyCar and F1 races. The IndyCar season is over. The F1 season, as of this recording, they're getting ready to head into the Brazilian Grand Prix at Interlagos in the 2014 season, and it is still a relatively up for grabs battle between Mercedes teammates Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton, I believe, currently in the lead by the largest gap that he's had this season, which is to say it's roughly the same size as the largest gap Nico Rosberg would have had earlier in the season. So you could argue that the momentum has gone away from Rosberg and that Hamilton will have things handily handed now. But I don't know. Alright, clearly I was trying to pour on more gas while the car was still trying to get its wheels settled underneath it, so that wasn't a good idea. Alright, so we're getting into a Zen car space now. Let's just keep this going. The guru of the garage. You know, Jaguar itself had an F1 team for a short while. They ended up taking things over from Stewart Grand Prix. And I was sort of rooting for them. I kind of liked the livery they had going. They had green cars. I'm a sucker for a green car. Nice dark green racing car. They had that going. Among their notable drivers were Eddie Irvine. Forget if I ever mentioned this story, but there was a tale going on at the time in the late 90s, early 2000s, when an incoming executive to the Ford Motor Company was looking at a list of salaries, executive compensation, and looked at it and was like, hey, our single highest paid employee is some guy named I've never heard of, named Eddie Irvine. Who is he? Does he work in this office? It's like, no, Eddie Irvine is actually one of the 2 Formula 1 drivers we have for the Jaguar F1 team. Eddie Irvine, the man for the man who came very close to, but did not quite win the F1 World Drivers' Championship in, I want to say that was 2000. It might have been 99 though. I think it was 99 now I think about it. But either way, was a driver for Ferrari. One of many drivers who were a teammate to Michael Schumacher and were sort of his backup. But in that particular year, Michael Schumacher broke his leg and was out for a number of races, so the team had to put all of their effort behind Irvine because he was still continually scoring points during all those events where Schumacher was not there. But yes, Eddie Irvine was their main #1 driver for a while. He was teamed with a number of guys. Pedro De La Rosa, if I'm remembering right. Antonio Pizzonia. Pedro De La Rosa had some success, although again, as a reserve driver, but had some good results when he raced in place of, was it Truly? It was a replacement. He was a backup driver at McLaren. That was it. That's right, I think, and he had some decent results during a span there. I hope I'm remembering this stuff right. Either way. Also, one of the better known drivers for Jaguar Racing was Mark Webber. That was Mark Webber's first team stop after leaving Minardi. Sort of a starting point for many great Formula One drivers. Not a finishing point for too many great Formula One drivers. It's a finishing point for sort of like, you know, maybe 1 or 2 season and done kind of guys. But, yeah. Interestingly enough, although while this was happening, Mark Webber was over at Williams. Mark Webber's, most of his success now ever ended up coming with the Red Bull team, which is actually what sprung forth from the Jaguar F1 operation. No, no. Oh, jeez. I had such a good gap built up. Although I guess that's precisely why you have a gap like that built up, so that can happen to you once. Oh, jeez. Such a loss of time, and now I'm all off my rhythm. Oh. All because I was trying to talk about Formula 1 histories and stuff. I'm not even playing a Formula 1 game. Alright, so the tires are starting to get a little weak, which I guess we should expect. It's lap 57, and we are going to be pitting at the end of lap 60, which will also be where we'll end up cutting this video. So yes, I was still driving as though the tires were in great shape, when the tires are not in great shape. They're actually in better shape than they've been this late into the stint in some of my previous stints. Not so much that I would want to double stint these tires by any stretch. But yeah, that ends up being what happens a lot in Formula 1. One team will go away and it will be, and like their shop and a lot of their staff and maybe even the design of a car they were working on, that sort of thing, will all be sold to another operation. And so one race team will sort of rise from the ashes of another. Red Bull sort of came from the roots of the Jaguar F1 team. And their sort of sister team, their junior-ish team, if you want to look at it that way, Scuderia Toro Rosso, sort of sprouted forth from the Minardi team, the aforementioned Minardi team. Mark Webber got a start in F1. And that's one of the reasons it's called Scuderia Toro Rosso. It's sort of Red Bull racing in Italian, basically. Alright, let's just be careful now. Try and get back into rhythm. I say I need to get back into rhythm when obviously I'm about to stop the video. And when that does happen, I will probably also myself stop, at least for a moment. These videos themselves may be spread out over days or even weeks, but this particular event, I'm going to stop because I want to try and get at least the first part of this thing video toasting, or not actually video toasting, but you know what I mean. Get the edits for it going. Get the commentary tracks and everything all smoothed up. So in the end, this will be split up into 3 videos. Giant smoky burnouts for you all to enjoy in the stands. Yay! Never been to Laguna Seca, but judging from this look at it and from the like times I've looked at trap maps, okay, you see some stands there. Sort of looks like there aren't a whole lot of like viewing vantage points because the terrain around it is pretty mountainous and rocky. It would be difficult to set up camp in a lot of places, and I imagine they actively discourage you from setting up camp in a lot of places. Yeah, boy. This last set of tires did go off in a hurry. They're off now. That guy's catching up with me now that I don't have good tires. And he'll be in right now, too. And he's going to come out probably just seconds behind me. But we'll find out about that next time. And until then, though, folks, this is Bobo the Vulture. This is Let's Play Gran Turismo 2. Thanks very much for watching. And, oof, I am so tense about this that you guys at home can't tell. But, yeah. Whew, sweating this one. Bye now.